is the new Stickman series. Now, if you don't know, I made a book called Stickman, and basically in that book it was 12 minutes long. I was gonna upload it, but I think I might upload it another day. But today, this is gonna be the first episode of the Stickman series, and I'm adding new things, including in the underground. So, before, if you don't know what Stickman is, and probably none of you have actually ever heard it on my channel, it's this book which I told you in the first part of the video. And basically, in that book, it shows you there's a lot of characters. This guy called Spaceman is trying to. It makes a dot army and tries to destroy the sticker, which is where the other characters live on. Stickman is the main character. The Stickman character called Minka is coming in Stickman 2 because she is born in the underground for the duraktion. That's where she holds a sword. I mean, the ultimate sword. And then there's Blockman, which gets his TV head from Stick City, which is where Spaceman lives, and where other Stick people live. And yeah. Anyway, let's get started with this episode. So, after the events of the Dart War, which I told you about, which Spaceman started, and after the events of the Stickman series, at the beginning of Stickman 2, there's something around a loud rumble comes from the underground of the Stickman. Oh, hold on. And when Stickman hears this, oh goodness, and when Stickman hears this, he gets surprised. He decides to go with Mr. Cave to try and see what was going on. And what he noticed was going to be really, really dark. You see, at the start of the Stick World, not only the entire planet was corrupted, well, not corrupted, but what I mean, like, something had happened. Because in the start of the book, Stickman and Stickman 46, which is Stickman's brother, basically fall onto Mirror Earth, which is in the Stickverse. And yeah, the Stickverse is also connected with Alan Becker, but there's no lore connected with this. There's no lore connected with Alan Becker and my Stickman series. Anyway, after that, and when the meteor crashes, it basically wipes out all humans. But before that, they're testing the thing out. Because not only that, but it would send a shockwave that nobody would even notice because of how big it would be. Anyway, COVID-19 was actually there. And when COVID-19 was there, it turned purple. Is COVID-19 already purple? I don't know. Anyway, once that COVID-19 turned purple, it got dark and started making its own life. But it started in the surface for some reason, because mostly people were mostly finding the cure, were also testing out on the meteors that were by Stickman and Stickman 46. Anyway, the duraktion only was just a little tiny piece of bacteria, and then it went into the underground. And once it did go into the underground, it got dark. When it went into the underground, it didn't want to go under the surface because it knew that these things, I think they were called mite bugs. I'll tell you in another episode. I'll tell you in episode 2. Anyway, that duraktion doesn't go to the surface because other creatures could steal it and probably get the disease, but it doesn't want that to happen yet. One day, when mostly everything has changed, and when everything has settled down after the meteor crash, it will evolve onto the surface and destroy everything. And that is controlled by one person called the Eye of the Duraktion. or Isaurus. Isaurus was born from the duraktion and was actually the little tiny piece of bacteria which I talked about when the duraktion first erupted, because it's actually just COVID-19 but way more darker and way more worse. So yeah, it goes into the underground and basically cave mites and all that, and yeah, and everything else, it just gets destroyed in the underground. But mostly after that, it fights back over it, and then there's only half of the stick core that was underground was duraktion. And it was spreading underground more rapidly than ever once the stickman dots went there, because they knew that they could infect the dots and then they could use them as robots, basically. And once they could destroy everything. They would have a bigger army. So Isaurus agreed with this and decided when the time was right, he would go. But unfortunately, while the dot was happening, while Isaurus was gonna come up, something bad had happened. Darkman was born from a very destroyed dot, which for some reason was almost destroyed and shattered by the power of the staff of not the staff of Dunment. I mean the staff of the stick system. And in that stick system there was a wand, and also there was many other characters that were out there just waiting to destroy the stick world for no reason, because they just hated it. They didn't like their place the way they were in. Anyway, that the stickman decided to go into the underground with Mr. Cave and Blockman. What they realized is that it was going to be a trap, because they went into the wrong area. They saw some kind of purple door or something like that, and they decided to go through. Mr. Cave then got pushed in immediately, and Stickman decided to try and help him by running as fast as he can straight into the thing in a millisecond. That's how fast he is. He's faster. He's like 1,000 times faster than Sonic the Hedgehog, I think. That's how fast he is. I think he is faster than God. Is he? I don't know. He's the god of... He's not the god of speed, though. I don't know who the god of speed is. I don't even think that is even a thing. Anyway, the duraktion that brought Mr. Cave into there had lured him in there. Had lured Stickman and Blockman into there, I mean. They both checked it out, and then what they realized is that they needed to stop this duraktion from spreading before the god Isaurus, which was almost as powerful, or nearly as powerful as a god, and he had mostly 1 billion times more health than a human. It basically started it started making duraktion trees all over the underground until it took over the entirety of the underground. Once that happened, the way they came into the underground was then locked by the duraktion. Now they were stuck here, and the only way to get through was by Stickman's speed. But for somehow, the Isaurus had gotten his speed. Now, what he needed to do was to summon the Stick God or turn Super Stickman, which he did to fight Darkman, because he said he wanted to also take over the stick system. Anyway, the Stickman decided, well, I guess we're going down here then, and he decided to try and summon the Stick God, but he didn't know how, because it would have to be in a very, very, very bad situation when he was very injured, and he had also recovered from his injuries from the first Stickman book when he was beaten up by Darkman when he was fighting in space in the stick system. Anyway, so Stickman, not with anything else to do, he tried to do it. He tried to get himself very injured, but he couldn't. So what he did instead is to turn Super Stickman, which he could do very easily. He just needed to get into his inner power and then use it on him. Inside of him was a golden heart. Yes, he had a golden cartoon heart. And basically it was 30 times stronger than a normal human heart, especially mine. and all the 9 or 8 billion people on Earth that have that. Anyway, Stickman turns super and he dives through into the duraktion and kicks and starts fighting and kicking the Icesaurus. But Icesaurus is a god. Well, almost. If he can take over the entire stick world, then that would make him a planet so big that it will be even bigger than Stickman himself. So Blockman decides to use his wings, which he gets in Stickman 2, and flies up into the air and tells the metal kangaroo and tells everything that something bad is going to happen, because he has this ability where he can shout so loud that the entire planet can hear it, but not underground. Anyway, he alerts everything in the stick world, and once he does, everything just starts going crazy. Chaos just happens. The Stick City is in chaos. Spaceman, who's still injured, realizes this and wakes up after getting punched by the Stick God, which he barely survives with 0.1 health left. And with that, he finally wakes up and recovers all of his health very quickly. After that, he goes ahead and digs down and literally starts fighting Blockman. And now that that's happening, Stickman has no idea what to do. Mr. Cave is in the duraktion. Blockman is fighting Spaceman in an epic battle, and even though Spaceman barely even survived with a very, 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 very low amount of health, he didn't even know what to do. And plus, he was also fighting Icesaurus, and Icesaurus could just use the duraktion trees to trap Stickman and remove him from his powers. But then the Icesaurus realized that he can infect things. So then that night, after the battle ended, Blockman, Mr. Cave, and Stickman all went to sleep. And while Rangu was asleep, he got infected, including Mr. Cave, because he was lured into there for 2 hours, but they were able to get him out easily. And even though the Icesaurus was very badly injured, or the Icesaurus god, he had already taken over entirely of the stick world underground, which means that they were going to have to do something before it was too late. So basically, they quickly open up Minka's egg, make sure she grows really, really fast, and then they use the ultimate sword on Icesaurus to get rid of this infection, because whatever it is, Ranker could also start sneezing a lot, and while his electric is very powerful, his electric could turn into duraktion trees because he was infected somehow by some kind of bacteria or some kind of gas which was part of the duraktion. So now every insect that was living on the ground was now infected, right? Well, no. They were actually hiding in places that the duraktion was still not there. But every single hour it was getting closer and closer to them, and soon enough it was going to infect them. And Stickman needed something to do. He called out to God and then said, "God, please, just give me another chance to become the Stick God again. I know I am the Stick God anyway, and I know I can turn into Super Stickman, but just please. And anyway, what happened? Stickman did turn Super Stickman when he fought Darkman in space in Stickman in the first Stickman book. But what he didn't realize is that also another bad thing was gonna happen. Not only that, but he basically, when he fought Darkman summoned a portal from the wand of the Stickverse so much that it basically made him. It was so loud, and also it spread through the entire stick system, which inspired Block Guy to do the same thing by making his own, or battling Darkman for it. So now everyone's here for the wand, and Stickman probably would want that wand. So then he fights Darkman once again, and he gets the wand to defeat the duraktion. But he doesn't know that Block Guy is now out to get the wand. But he doesn't know that Block Guy is out to get the wand. So he's got some also more trouble to do. He doesn't only have Darkman recovering from his injuries, but he also has Block Guy moving his ship to the stick world so he can cause havoc on there. And not only that, the duraktion could infect the entire stick system, making all the stick system just dark and plain and rubbish and just dumb and dull and just dark and no life at all except for duraktion trees and duraktion insects and the Isosaurus god. And then after that, Stickman gets him for his full internally. He turns into the stick god. This is when he turns into the stick god. Oh, by the way, it's so loud that basically it would burst the human's eardrums. So that's why I'm playing a different song. After he turns this into the stick god, which God had promised to do, if he ever saw that Stickman was in trouble. Basically, now he had the power to do anything he wanted. He could just destroy the entire stick world and then be the main villain. But he didn't want to do that because he was good, because he loved the stick world and he didn't want it to die. And if you guys didn't hear that, here's a repeated message. And he didn't want it to, and he didn't want it to die because that was his home. That's where he was landed on. That's what the media or God chose him to go to. Anyway. The stick god or stick man, which is now the stick god, gets to Isosaurus and punches him so hard, just like Spaceman. Isosaurus barely survives, but then after one teensy little pick, and Isosaurus just immediately dies with a cracked eye and all of the duraktion going away. The duraktion then completely disappears out of the stickverse, and then it goes to a different universe to cause havoc on there instead. And then after that, Rangu finds a cure by eating more lyre flies, not by eating strepsils, because strepsils don't exist in the stickverse. Anyway, after that, Mr. Cave is also cured, and everyone else that was infected, including all the insects underground, are all also cured. And yeah, everything is saved. Stickman turns back into the stick god. They have a tradition, and then Minka basically finds out that Block Guy is gonna get them, and then Spaceman realizes that this guy called Punch Man is also coming to this. It was all from the sun, from the star of the stick system. He came from the star of the stick system. He basically is now traveling to the stick world to find a new home. But what he doesn't know is that when Spaceman was still around, they both hated each other so much that they battled each other every single time they met. So now, Punchman is worried that he's gonna see Spaceman there. So now he wants to find Spaceman and kill him once and for all. And that is where the end of this episode of the Stickman series ends. I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you enjoyed the first episode. We've got a lot more planned, including that also Goldland has also ended, which I also made a video about. That's very sad, but we're making a new series anyway, and plus we've got LBP Free Circles 4 coming out this week. So yeah, be prepared. LBP Free Circles 4 is coming out this week for all those LBP Free Circles fans, which is inspired by Scooby Toilet. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this Stickman episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!